Ben, we've had the press conference. Josh looks ready to go. He looks frustrated a little bit. It looks like he kind of wants the fight to be now. You've obviously seen him in camp. How good is he looking? We know he's one of the best around in the world, at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. Josh is ready to rock and roll. I think it's important that, I don't mind that little bit of hank, as they say, that comes out of him, but I think it's important in the early part of this fight that he's disciplined. And gradually starts to break Jack down as the fight goes on, but he's ready to rock and roll.
He says it doesn't really matter what Jack does. He can do whatever Jack does better than how Jack does it. Obviously there is a game plan. Are you going to give it to me? What are you expecting from Josh Taylor on Saturday?
Yeah, as I said, I think it's important that he's disciplined early on in the fight. I think that Jack, they'll be looking at the pro-grade fight, and there's moments in the pro-grade fight before Josh come to me that, a little bit too eager, switching off in moments, and they'll be banking on Josh, getting carried away with the crowd and a little bit too eager to close the gap and being a bit reckless with his transitions and trying to bring him onto a shot. So I think it's important that Josh doesn't create that scenario for them. That's why I say it's important that he's disciplined, his transitions through distance are smooth. And Jack, when there's a lull in the action, Jack will switch it up and likes to go first as well. So I certainly think there's potential for Josh to bring Jack into a shot as well.
You've said it there, they'll be looking at Josh's previous fights and trying to pick holes in it. You would have done the same with Jack Catterall. What do you see in his game that potentially Josh can take advantage of? Without giving too much away, obviously.
Yeah, well, like I say, when there's a lull in the action, Jack will switch it up and try to go first as well. And as I say, I think that Josh has the potential to bring Jack into a shot that way. They're banking on things that Josh done before he come and work with us, and those are things that obviously, as you said, we've looked at Jack Catterall, but we've also looked at Josh Taylor since he's come and started working with us, and there's areas of his game that we've been working on ironing out to make sure that he doesn't do that. Jack certainly poses threats. I'm not going to go into too much detail about weaknesses that we can exploit, but there's definitely hurdles that we've prepared to overcome. And Josh knows what he needs to do. He just needs to go out there and make sure that he sticks to it. Is there
almost a bit of a mentality check when it comes to the recent opponents that Josh has had? Because I think there's a combined 150-0 or something like that, something ridiculous. He's taken absolutely everyone's O in recent fights. Do you have to prepare differently for somebody who's never been beaten, or is it business as usual?
It's business as usual. I think what's different with this fight is obviously Jack's unbeaten, but there's probably a lot of people that don't know, probably couldn't tell you what Jack's good at and Jack's not so good at.
But you can.
Yeah, of course. We've studied him, but there's a different pressure when you're, and I've experienced this with other fighters I work with. When you're such a heavy favourite, it brings a different type of pressure. Never mind the undisputed title being on the line. And for me, it'd be easy for me to sit there and blow some smoke up Josh and say, he's not on your level and try and take that pressure away. But I'm an advocate for that bit of pressure, because pressure is where the magic happens, and that pressure is what's going to make him perform and perform at his best on Saturday.
You said it up there, actually. No pressure, no diamonds. It's true. The crowd, we know that it's going to be a sellout, a pro Josh Taylor crowd. Will the crowd help or hinder Josh? He has Hank inside of him, so he's probably ready and roaring to go. But you've got the cool and calm, collected personality, and that's what reigns in him. So how are you going to ask him to deal with the crowd?
I think different stages in the fight, and depending on where the fight goes, depends on whether the crowd's going to be a positive or a negative effect. Like I say, I think early on, if Josh is too keen to improve, because there's a lot of people that think this should be a blowout, but that's not the reality of it. Like I said, Jack poses threats, so Josh needs to be disciplined early on in the fight. But you never know, if the fight starts to go towards the trenches, those fans can very quickly become the 12th man, as the football fans would say.
Obviously, he's achieved everything that he can achieve at 140. After this fight, should he get past it, does he stay at 140, or do you think we see him move up to 147?
That's a difficult question, because it's something that we haven't come up with an answer for, and it's something that partly that's because we haven't spent too much time focused on it, because we're so focused on this Jack Catterall fight, because everything that's at risk and at hand here. So Josh could be a career 140-pounder if he wanted to. You have to take into consideration it would just be mandatory after mandatory after mandatory, which may limit the fights that the fans want to see, or the more lucrative fights for Josh. And also, you know, the reality of it, there's 12% sanctioning fees that have to be paid, which is a lot of money. And it looks like Spence and Ugas are fighting, so there's going to be a unification fight up there at 147 pounds. So there's options there, but at the minute, it's not something that we've spent much time and can straight after the fight say this is what we're going to do, because we genuinely haven't spent that much time focused on it. We are both and the whole team so focused on this fight. I'm
going to press you for a prediction. If you were a betting man and you were betting on Bet365, what would your prediction be?
I'd go for a Josh Taylor stoppage second half of the fight.
That's a good... guys, you heard it here first. And Ben?
I want a tip of anyone who gets that bet and wins.
That's it, 30%. WBC mandatory.